So this is going to be the next BYD model we see in Europe. It's called the Seal U, and it will initially come as a pure electric SUV. Now this particular model, you'll see it has the DMI note on it. That means that this particular one is the plug-in hybrid, and that will come a little bit further down the line. So let's have a look through what you can expect with this new model. Now we already have the Seal, it's just arrived and gone on sale in Europe, and you can see from the front how it has that same familiar look. It's part of its Ocean series design, but as you come down the side of the car you can start to see actually where it differs, and it's a lot more practical. This is the kind of SUV shape that's just so popular in Europe at the moment. We've got 19-inch wheels, you've got a little bit more ground clearance, and you can see with that just ever so slightly sloping roofline gives a lot of room inside. Then when you come around the back, even though you've got plenty of room for rear passengers, you also still have a pretty generous amount of boot space in here. Now, it's not exactly class leading, but it should be more than enough for most average families. Inside, there's a usual look to what we see in the latest BYD models. The first thing you notice is this large touchscreen display here, how it sits kind of free and floating on the dashboard. And of course, it does have that rotating feature as well, which is a bit of a novelty, and it differentiates it from a lot of the other EVs. Having it in this mode is actually really good, I find, when I'm using the navigation function, because it gives you a much nicer layout of the map. But you can also then have it other ways depending on what your preference is. And a touch of a button, you can then flip it back around and have it that way as well. The layout itself is quite simple in here. You've got the air vents at a decent level here. You've got two wireless chargers here as well. So that's really useful that you can have two phones charging. And then this area here is all your main controls. So you've got this kind of crystal effect drive selector here and your park button, and then you've got your volume controls, your driving modes, and in this particular one this has the EV or HEVs, because this is the plug-in hybrid model, and your start is there as well. You've got two decent sized cup holders, and you also then have more storage space in there as well. So it's really deep, actually. You can go right the way down. Very useful for putting in extra odds and ends. You still have a decent sized glove box in here as well. So again, that's a pretty good size if you want to put all your documents or anything else in there as well. And I do kind of like this layout. You've got the glossy piano black, but you've got this extra layer with a bit of ambient lighting here. It's kind of hard to see in the daytime, but it does look pretty good at night. And you've got this kind of cross-colored, different colored stitching all the way along as well. Then in front of the driver itself, you have, first of all, a color head-up display right in front of you. You then have a fully digital display for the instruments, and that gives you everything that you would want to have in here as well. And then the steering wheel, there's a little bit of a flat bottom to it, but it's a decent size. It doesn't feel too big, doesn't feel too chunky either. And you've got controls here again, so you've got your volume, you've got your cruise control, all the sort of things you're going to need on the go. You can do that. You can even change the screen rotation via a button on the steering wheel as well. The seats are electrically adjustable. There's a lot of different adjustment here as well. So finding a driving position is going to be very easy. And also the steering rack as well, the steering column has a fair amount of adjustment there as well. So it should be pretty easy for most people to find a comfortable driving position. One other thing, an extra bit of storage is right the way under there. You have a little bit more storage space as well. So again, if you want to put some more odds and ends in there, you also have USB-C charge ports in there as well. So there's a lot of sort of creature comforts, all the usual modern conveniences and features that you would expect, and what we've seen in existing BYD models carry over to this Seal U when it goes on sale. Now here in the back of the Seal U, there is a huge amount of space. There's a lot of room here. The seats are actually nice and wide. I can even adjust the back of the seats as well. So these can be adjusted and reclined a little bit more if you want. If you're not using the middle seat, you've got the usual fold down cup holder and armrest, which is quite useful. The two outer rear seats also have easily accessible ISOFIX points. Now, I talked about how much room I have, and you can see this driving seat is set up for my normal driving position. So I'm sitting behind myself, as it were, and I have a lot of knee room here, which is really good. I've got pockets in the backs of the seats here. I can get my feet in underneath the seat in front as well. So if I do want to stretch out a little bit more, I can. The other thing is really appealing is that the middle seat here is almost as flat as the two outer seats, so you don't feel, often the middle seat can feel like you're sitting up on a bench or on a perch. That's a lot better. And also then you have a completely flat floor in here. It's one of the big advantages of this being an EV, is that you have a totally flat floor in here as well. You also have vents here in the back. There's also a tiny bit of storage, and you have two USB-C ports in here as well. So you have a lot of nice features, all the things you would expect. And the other big advantage is you've got decent sized windows here. You've also got a really big panoramic glass sunroof here as well, with a sun blind that does come out, or you can open the front section. So it adds to the sense of it being very airy and very comfortable in the back. Well, this is the Seal U, albeit not what we will experience when it first arrives. This particular version I'm driving is the plug-in hybrid model that is sold here, and will actually be probably sold in some of the European markets, although in Ireland and more than likely in the UK as well, this will only come as a pure electric vehicle. So I'm not going to go into too much in terms of performance wise what this is like, but what immediately shines out from driving this is ride comfort is pretty good. There's a nice light but accurate feeling from the steering as well. Like the similarly named Seal Saloon, it does drive quite nicely as well, perhaps not with the same agility and sportiness, but it's very comfortable and composed. There's good amount of sound insulation as well. There's not a whole lot of road noise coming from it, even though it's on big enough alloy wheels. The steering is light, but it's not too light. You still get a fairly decent feel for what the front end is doing. It certainly feels maneuverable in that sense. And you do sit up quite high actually. You do have a fairly elevated driving position. There's a good field of vision out here as well. The A-pillar is not exactly very big, so that's also pleasing. There's no big blind spots with it. You have decent sized door mirrors as well, and actually pretty good rearward visibility too. So, you know, it ticks a lot of the right boxes and covers off a lot of the bases that often are the criticism of cars in this class. Now, there is plenty of performance on tap from this one when you do want it, and no doubt that will be the same with the electric version when that comes to our market. But it's really what stands out about this car is how nicely laid out it is inside, the amount of space that you have inside here as well, and the overall comfort. This is a car that is probably, hopefully, going to be priced every bit as competitively as the Seal is. And if it does that, well, then they could actually do very well. Now, sadly, we're slightly limited here in China as to the roads that we can drive on, but this is really just an initial first experience of what the Seal U is like. And you know, as you've seen from the static part of this video, you know, it has a lot of positive features to it. The size is good. I think the styling is pretty decent too. And if they can get the pricing right on this car, this could be a pretty big hit for BYD in Europe. Time will obviously have to tell on that. We'll need to wait until we get the full electric version and drive it. But initially, this seems to be a pretty well-rounded car. It would have been nice to drive this over a much longer journey to really see how it feels, and especially maybe at higher speeds and on motorways, because that's typically, after all, where a lot of people will be driving cars like this. But even in this slightly confined space and area that we're driving in, it's made a fairly decent first impression. And of course, this car is not going to be without its rivals. The electric mid-size SUV segment is set to boom in 2024. So this will have plenty of competition coming its way. But nevertheless, you know, I think BYD has assessed that, and the overall package that they put together for this should appeal to plenty of buyers. And crucially, the big difference is that this feels noticeably different to the Seal Saloon. And if you want to know about that car, check out the review that's also on this channel. So that's our first look at the new BYD Seal U. It's going to come on sale later this year in 2024, and it's bound to be a very popular hit among SUV buyers. If you want to know more about the car, head over to our website. It's CompleteCar.ie. You'll find it linked in the description below, and it's a great resource for finding your next new car. Thanks for watching.